Wanted to take a few minutes and talk about our two paper options now that we are online for the rest of the semester due to the virus. So, COVID made us make some changes. So, as you can see on your screen right now in the blue highlights, that's what is new. So, this paper option is a new option. You can still do the first option if you do decide to follow the first option. You have a whole lot of documents already available to you between what's here. There's a handout um, on Blackboard already for the assignment. And if you decide to do what's in the blue here, this is a very simple research paper. Um, there's really not anything too unique to this paper other than probably or possibly, I should say, this last section of the discussion of everyday life and living. I'm going to go through both of these options for a little bit, but really quickly, the first thing I want to say, if you don't either think it's practical or don't have interest in doing the original paper, don't go for this method, for this option. Go for the one in blue. I expect that I'll probably get 80% doing this paper option now. Now, if you have a behavior that you chose to do when we had our proposals that's still practical to do, that you've already started running the experiment for, doing an observation week for, if you've already started it, go for it. Don't stop. But if you haven't started this yet, switch to the second paper option. You're already at the point where it takes 3 weeks to run and we're already at the towards the end of the semester. Everything with the changes made things very difficult with adjusting to the changes to really get the updates that I needed to get to you for this assignment. And the bottom line really is now that we can't really go outside, a lot of the behaviors you chose are either impossible or just impractical to potentially do right now. So I really don't recommend the behavior modification project unless you have a unique situation that you think it just makes perfect sense for. And that's up to you. If you do decide to proceed with this, your assignment guidelines are here, and I can schedule a time for a phone call with you, for a Zoom conference with you, emails with you to answer any specific questions that you have. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this assignment. It's graded right here. 25% is just your format, so that should be free to you. That's actually pretty consistent with the other paper as well. And then you have three different sections. The beforehand section was everything you put into your proposal. You're going to talk about your behavior, your reinforcements, your punishments, your goal. 25% for the experiment. This is the 3 weeks you're running the experiment. Week 1 would be an observation week. Week 2 and 3 would be actually running the experiment for 2 weeks, collecting all of the data and making sure all of the data is there. That section can be submitted to me either as a list, a graph, a table, paragraph form, it doesn't matter, but because I'm allowing a lot of different ways to do that, I will count it no matter what you do as one of your 4 pages towards the assignment. So even if you give me 5 pages of graphs, it's only going to count as 1 page towards the assignment. Even if you give me half of a page with one table that fits everything, it still would only count as 1 page. The aftermath section is after you are done running the experiment. Did it work? And the questions I would want you to answer are as follows. Did it work? Why or why not? Where does it go from here? So now that the experiment's done, well, if the experiment worked, what's going to happen now? Is it going to go back to normal now that you stopped doing your punishment? Is it going to stay changed? Is it going to slowly go back to normal or snap back like a rubber band back to normal? What do you think is going to happen? If your experiment worked, I would expect a whole lot there. If your experiment didn't work, probably not too much there. But the third question is, what could you have done better? And if your experiment did not work, I would expect a whole lot of what you could have done better. Now, if your experiment worked, you should still have that section because there's always room for improvement. With that said, probably not as much detail as there otherwise would have been. And then if there's anything else you want to talk about with the aftermath, you can talk about it there as well. And that's what that paper would look like if you choose to proceed with that. But I want to take 5 minutes going over this other this other paper option, I'm sorry. So I think most of you will probably proceed to do this assignment. This is a very traditional research paper. I do this exact assignment with my summer classes for Intro to Psychology because it's a shortened time frame. It just fits better. And that's actually what we really find ourselves in now. It's a shortened time frame with all of our changes to the online semester, so I think this is a good option. If you do decide to go with this option, the first thing you have to do is decide what psychological disorder to research. The psychological disorder is completely up to you. Make sure it's recognized in the DSM, but aside from that, whatever you decide to research is completely up to you. Whatever disorder that you choose, focus on a disorder. Don't focus on a category of disorders. So uh, beyond that, you could do depression, schizophrenia. You could do borderline personality disorder, schizoid personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, etc., etc. First things first, figure out that disorder. Then you have to find some research. You need right here, three academic research sources. Now, as long as they are academic sources, that's all I care about where you get them. So you don't have to use the library database or Google Scholar or anything, but you do have to make sure they're academic. So you can't just pull something from Wikipedia or something for it to count. It has to be an academic source. Ideally, it comes from a peer-reviewed journal, but I won't make that a firm requirement as long as it's from a academic source. You are going to then write a 4-page research paper on that. As far as how you're graded, you can see right here, just like the other paper, 25% is just format. 4 pages, double spaced, normal margins, APA format, traditional format. So you should have that free to you. The next 25% of the grade is based off of your research. So I want to be able to see that your research is current. Current, for the most part, means within the last 5 years. If you can't find good information from that, you can go to the last 10 years. But other than if you want one article that's outside of that window, your other two should be within 5 years. And I want to see that you did extensive research, that it's current research, that it's academic, that it's good research, that your research is pretty good. Now again, that's something that should be pretty much free to everyone. The next section is that you understood it. So not just that your research is good and accurate, but that you understood what you were reading from from those sources. I want to be able to see as you talk about the disorder that you understand the disorder. That comes from your research with making sure you show you have an understanding of what you're reading. And that's probably going to be 3 of the 4 pages of the assignment is just a overview, a very basic literature review of this psychological disorder. The last 25%, from when I do this assignment, I want to make a specific mention. Don't overlook or minimize this section. This section is important to me in this because this is application, and I really do believe in application as a general statement. I want you to discuss how the disorder relates to everyday life and living. Now, this is not necessarily something you will find verbatim in your research. Depending on what you're doing your research on, you might find some information there. You can still find more information. You don't have to completely just apply what you think that's going to mean. But that's where you can start to, do uh, some searching, find some information, even a YouTube clip. While you shouldn't be using it as, this is what the disorder is, it often can help to give you a little bit of a picture of the disorder. And that can actually then help you take the research, the actual research you did, and apply it. So I do recommend maybe trying to do some, researching for even a blog post or a YouTube thing just to help you apply, not to use it as research, but just to help give yourself a better picture if you need it. I want you to take a solid page. This probably would end up one of your 4 pages, not anything over the top. But you're going to go over what life and living is with this disorder. Apply what you're reading with the research, and to some degree, you're going to have information about this. Apply that beyond that. Apply that to what life would be like with this disorder. Some of this you can find from case study research and try to apply that into your paper from there. But for the most part, what I'm specifically looking for is that you're taking all of the information that you find, all of the information from these academic sources, and that you can then apply what this disorder really is to what it would be like for someone living with this every day in life. Being able to get a good picture and describe a narrative here that can apply to this. I want you to think about this, not just research and just regurgitate. This should have some of your own insight in it. And that's this paper. 4 pages. It's probably a 3 page traditional research paper with 1 page about everyday life and living is probably what I would expect to see. Now, if you have any specific questions about it, just like with the other paper, we can schedule a Zoom call, we can talk over the phone, by email. There's a lot of ways that we can talk more about it, but that's what I'm looking for from these papers. And remember, they're due at the end of the semester. The dates are on Blackboard.